Hello, guys. Um, you're just watching two visualizers that Mitch Mantis has made of the illustrations of Ocean Tales, and I'm really excited today to show you a little bit on the process of this whole album and how I made these illustrations. The album will come out on Friends of Friends the 27th of August, I believe, and this is to celebrate where are my tentacles. I'm not sure what you mean by that. But yeah, I'm just releasing these two songs that you just heard. They just come out today. They're called Grass Amulet with German guitar player and producer Ningen, and the second track is called World Building. And to celebrate that, I just wanted to show you a little bit of the world that I made for Ocean Tales, and hope you enjoy that. So, bit of a background story. So I live in Australia, and I am originally Dutch, with a French background, and I've been here for 5 years, and I've gone through like a whole visa procedure, meaning that I kind of only came back once in my whole life, in my 5 years of being here, back to see my family overseas. And so I'm sort of kind of like kind of stuck here in this country, and I feel like Santpoort in general is like, it's the village I grew up in, so like it was like one of the inspirations of homesickness, and I kind of like fantasize about this world. Yeah, some kind of thing like that. Yeah. So yeah, I started off like just writing in these like notebooks. Like I just have a bunch of them. Some of them are for drawings, and some of them are like for just writing things down. And I see what you're saying. With you, unfortunately, I don't have fins or tentacles. I'm just a human being, I think. Anyway, so yeah, this was like the idea of Ocean Tales. It was like I'm telling like the story from being overseas in a world that is kind of like, separated from the rest of the world by water, and that started off with like so I kind of like wrote down what the idea was and what kind of like, like the outline of the project. And yeah, I started off with like this world that's kind of, I imagine like the rest of the world was flooded, like especially like since last year. I started like at the end of 2019, I think, and by 2020, like COVID happened, no one's going anywhere. So I kind of imagined like, the world's flooded. Like, what are the transportation ways? How can people like, go from A to B? And, land becomes like a valuable thing. And, like a lot of things starts to adapt to water. And for some reason, lighthouses are like one of those like themes that I feel like they're like beacons in like a world where there's not much out there. So yeah, I started writing down like some sort of like idea. At that point, I think I wanted to like do like a music video or like a story-based thing. And while these ideas were like pretty cool and I never ended up using them, they were pretty valuable in terms of like projecting what I was trying to think about and how I wanted to portray the album. Originally I had an idea of like putting like an hourglass in the center of the world, because in some sort of way that sort of showed like the stability and the time, which was like for some reason time is like a big factor on this whole album as well. There's a lot of like things that portray time um, yeah, so I just continued, and I was like, ooh, it would be cool to have like a bicycle that's kind of used on the surface of a vast sea, and manta rays are like small villagers that can travel independently. Um, but yeah, they belong to like the Loon Society tribe. It's funny. I got this idea, and then I started like sketching all these things like down here. It's like, what if they're like, if it's divided in three, one is above the water, like life on a flooded world, one is in the sky, like the manta rays, and one is like under the sea, like a diving bell. Things are not as developed yet. And yeah, I was kind of like, how do we travel like this floating person with these kind of almost like like those baby mobile kind of objects in the sky. I show you this like sketch because in the end I ended up using these kind of mobile elements in, well, you saw it in the visualize that Mitch did. So I also kind of like the idea of like building like a map. It's kind of like the map of all my songs mapped out in what they actually signify. So for example, like Loon Society, it's like this kind of like group of floating islands, and I kind of pictured like it would be really cool for like the manta ray to, fly between those islands. And Loon Society is like the EP that I released before Ocean Tales. Like it kind of ties together because like originally this album was gonna be called Loon Society, but it ended up not. I ended up not using it because it kind of fit as that EP. And funnily enough, the previous single that I released, Sunset River, originally was called Loon Society. So it's kind of like a name that's kind of traveled through a thread of releases that I've done. So yeah, I kind of like plotted every little bit, on like on a page like this, and to kind of like map it out and see where everything sits. Yeah, I got these sketches. Here comes the bicycle on like these kind of cabin looking things. I had this idea of windmills and the dunes to the sea and pets and a lot of little things here and there. I also had like, originally I had an idea to do a whole comic book for this release, but it ended up not being that viable, also because it's a lot of work, especially if you're going page by page. It's pretty crazy. So yeah, I ended up just using everything, all these ideas to put like in illustrations and build this world. Sort of like a more of a symbolic meaning behind it. Let me see, where are we? These are more like drawings that I just did, just have a bit of an idea. Like originally I had the idea of that this world was like inside of a snow globe, but I ended up discarding that idea because like I think it's nice to like leave that up to imagination. But I had this idea that there was an architect that was kind of like designing everything. As you can see here, it's like these manta rays are flying on the screen, and the architect is having a drink next to the computer. It's a bit meta and a bit of a joke, but yeah. Here are more loons diving for things. So yeah, I kind of want to like fill up this world with like other people and families and things like that. But then I decided like there's something about sort of like the loneliness that this music has, and and I kind of came to my moment of breakthrough. The idea was like that I realized like I kind of like grew up, and it would be really interesting to have this perspective of like I'm telling this story So this is where the name Ocean Tales comes from. It's like I what I'm experiencing here in terms of music and visually, I'm telling this story as like an old person towards a pair of children listening to it, because like this project is kind of like a childhood project, and I get a lot of like inspiration from like playful, like children's, like almost like innocent slash thoughtlessness, if that makes sense. So yeah, that was kind of like all the sketches. I had more sketches, but like they were on pages that I kind of lost. I'm not quite sure where they were. So I just kind of like photoed everything that I could find, and so yeah, I started like working out some ideas, which is in this tab. It's like what can I make to kind of like kind of give this idea. So these are all like kind of ideas that I kind of wanted to work out. This was a concept art of a song called Endlessly Dancing, which I ended up not using, but I like this idea. I also like this idea of this little model figurine, because it's such like a nice blank slate of something, and it doesn't really like define anything. So I don't know, it's like a nice symbolism. This is one of the things I do, is like I take photos and then I retrace certain contours. It's kind of like a rotoscope technique. Like animators and videographers know what I mean by that. It's in essence like you just retrace frame by frame certain elements, and then you can animate them. But I kind of like, one of my things that I do, I just take photos of everything that really inspires me, and just like like kind of go with it. This was like a concept of the artwork for Grass Amulets and world building. It's like a combination. I kind of found this a little bit too crowded, so I discarded this idea quite quickly. Some capsule bottles, like little elements of everyday's life in the city. Kind of like this idea of just kind of isolating them. Also, if you guys have any questions, please be my guest and just ask them. Maybe like if you have any questions on my process, or even anything else like fins or tentacles, then please be my guest. So here is like an illustration with a cat just kind of like climbing into some plants, but it's still flooded, so it's kind of like, how do you get there? This was like a more worked out idea of the book cover that I did, or like there was a sketch from this page right here. I was like, I like this idea, so I kind of like worked that out. I think in the end I didn't use the snow globe idea, so like I just went ahead and I just kept this in the archive. Maybe one day I'll do something with it, but for now I'm happy. So this is one of the first cabins I drew for like the ideas I had with the cabins. Here are the books. You might notice this from like the front cover that I ended up going for, with this sort of train line rail shadow in the background, and the main character on the front cover is sitting on a pile of books. So I really like this idea, so like I kind of went ahead with it and did something with it. This is one of the older ideas that I used for one of the previous streams for Friends of Friends. This was like it's It's actually like I used a photo from Broadway, as you can see in the background, and I just kind of designed and used the reference of Broadway, New York, as a background where everything's flooded. I kind of want to like show you this because this was already like the moment where I kind of was like thinking about it. About this whole idea. And as you can see the traffic light of the previous page, on the same page actually. It's right here. So I kind of like morphed this idea in this idea, and this is something that I do a lot. Another idea was like the message in a bottle, which is the like this came to life in the animation that Mitch did for like lightning, and some more little doodads. Here's like a sketch I did for like the underdeveloped geometric shapes of the concept stage. Made some turtles, but couldn't quite pinpoint what I actually. Oh yeah, this is the New York sketch, and I tried to like make everything like overgrown by water and plants, and I ended up using this as a background for that. As you can see, kind of blur it and then put myself in the front with like some what are they called, kelpie. So yeah, that's kind of like all the discarded ideas that I had, and I started like collecting references of like what could inspire me and what do actually inspire me. A lot of people notice like the water is kind of like similar to the Wind Waker of Zelda, which is like one of the games I've played the most when I grew up. That's kind of like exciting. And while Gorillas is like a big, it's a big inspiration as well. Obviously Ghibli with like the train line going on top of the water, and we got like Mobius with like the beautiful palais, and Dinotopia, which is it's like this guy who's I think palagiolist or something like that, and he does like a lot of things like that. And then this is a movie that Dali and Disney did together called Destino, which is like, I kind of like this kind of like surrealistic dreamscape type thing. It's kind of like what I collected, what I felt like is really cool. Then I went to like go through my own photos and have a look what I have myself and what I can use as a base for things. I really like this. This is like a photo of me when I was younger with my family in the background, and this is Bretagne in France. I kind of like this stage of life where I was this old, because I feel like it kind of like this. I used like how like my size and how I look like, and here you can see another photo of me when I was like 8 years old. I used that as a model for the character in the front of the artwork, and that's pretty exciting. It's pretty funny to like see myself back, and kind of like grown up a little bit. And so yeah, this is another photo that I took from a place that I used to live in Sydney, just like having a bit of like a the outlook of like a cabin, and what I could do to like I used this photo to like as a reference for one of the shots in the music video that's coming up. Then this is like I take photos of everything, so like I ended up going into like an antique shop, or more like a knickknacks thing in Brisbane, uh, like last year, and um, I thought this was really cool because it looked kind of like a little simulation of life with like this little house and these trees that are all geometric shapes, and I felt like, wow, that's kind of like something that I was working on, and I used this idea back into like the cover of the artwork of the new single, which I will show you in a sec. So it's kind of like really interesting to see that, like those like real life objects and bringing them back into like an illustration. I know, like, because I'm not someone who I cannot draw like exceptionally well. So like, this was like but in my case, like I kind of liked that I'm using like real objects and based them on things that are real, because it gives like this sort of like ring to the illustrations, that there's some strange life in them, because I've used the actual model of real things, and I think I don't have the skill yet to like actually bring it up to that stage where it's like incredibly realistic. But it's not like my point to try to like copy it either. I just want to like take certain objects and ideas just out of their context and give them like this sort of like life that I'm blowing into them. So yeah, this is another one I found in this was like a souvenir shop in Tasmania, somewhere in a national forest. There was like a sort of an information center of like some waterfalls or something like that, and I saw this really cool looking clock, and I was like, wow, this thing is crazy. Especially because like it's very shiny and kind of like surrealistic as well. So yeah, this is the reference photo of me grabbing one of my recipe books. This is a very good cookbook actually. It's called Altalengi, and it's a really delicious vegetarian and vegan recipes in this book. But I use this photo as like, because like this whole idea of Ocean Tales is, it's like a book. You're opening it up and you're reading it, and you're reading a story of my experience, and also like getting away a little bit, and you're opening like this book and story of like a different world, like a creative, like an imaginative world. And so I use this as the back, as a reference of the back of the record. I ended up not using my foot in there, I think, but I kind of liked opening up the track list, because this is where the track list actually is. I can show you. This is what it ended up becoming. Like everything here is what is literally this page. So that's pretty interesting, and funny, and especially because I kind of liked having the curve of the letters, and as you can see, like right here, it kind of like bends a little bit. As closer you get to this curve, the more the sentence and the letters are starting to curve towards the end of the page. This is another Brisbane photo. Funnily enough, our friend in Brisbane had the same exact model figurine, so I was like, I have to take a photo. And I ended up using this as well in some sort of degrees. And then little capsule bottles you saw in like one of my discarded ideas. Forget where that was. Somewhere over here. Oh yeah. So that's kind of like just having a bit of a study, so to say. Cool. So now I'm going to like the actual illustrations that I end up using. So let me start in the middle, because it's kind of like quite a lot of stuff. So I ended up going for this like really nice foggy blue atmosphere, and like as you can see, this is the kid that I was describing. And I was asking myself, what else is on the horizon? So referring back to my concepts with the three things above and beneath, like above with the flying manta rays, I think this is the most worked out sketch of me just drawing out these things. And so I also like this is like the Sunset River artwork with the figurines back in there. I was like, what if the figurines have like their own little biome and slash their own little world where they can just travel by boat, but the water is not really water either. Hi, Cine Art. I'm just breaking down the ideas and the world that I created for my new album Ocean Tales. And I've been going from sketches to discarded ideas, like how I kind of like go through it. I'm sure you'll be able to like look back onto the stream. And so yeah, we're just going through everything of this and just like the photos and collections of like photos that I've been taking. Yeah, I make all my own art. So yeah, I was like kind of showing a little bit like what I've created before I've actually used any of the illustrations and artwork for my music. So yeah. So here's the mobile idea back into like, I don't know, back in the sketch stages, where I was like, oh, this person is kind of floating in between world above the world. It's coming back in this idea. And I ended up using this also in like the visualizers for the songs that came out today. Thank you, Cine Art. That's really kind of you. Yeah, as you can see, the weird clock thing that I took the photo of in Tasmania is coming back into this illustration, where this was like the concept art for a song called Time Travels. So I kind of like this idea of like, oh, it's almost like a totem in this world, where it's like the more you are overseas, the more time elapses and time travels kind of thing. This train right here is like a Dutch train. It's a Dutch train because Santpoort is actually a Dutch village. It's the village I grew up in, so it kind of made sense that it's also a reference back to like my place where I grew up, and yeah. All right, sleep well then. It's pretty late over there. I can imagine that. Where are you based in? For 2 a.m. That's kind of. It's not even America, I think, or West Coast maybe. No, it's not. It's in Europe, I feel. So yeah, Czech Republic. Well, that's cool. I've been to Prague like maybe 10 years ago, 15 years ago. It's a really cool country. I like it. I like the Mucha Museum in Prague. That was one of my favorite artists as well. Alphonse Mucha, very, very good painter and illustrator. Sleep well, thanks. So yeah, as you can see, this is like the illustration I did based on the reference of this kind of like little island and geometric shapes. Yeah, and that became the artwork for the new single Grass Amulet as well. So I just kept on going, and I made like an illustration with like this kind of wavy pattern from the Wind Waker, and I kept on going, and I have to like give a shout out to Mitch, which is he's like an amazing animator from America, and he's been working for Friends of Friends quite a lot, and he's an incredible animator. He's done like works for Somni and Fort and Shrimp Nose, and um, he actually, because like I gave him all the illustrations of everything that I'm showing you here, and I gave him all like the files, and we've been working on something really really interesting and very very exciting, and the visualizers that you've been seeing so far is kind of like a snapshot of what's gonna come. It's part of like a music video, if I can say that. But like the way he strung everything together was like he just brought everything together. So like I have to give him a special strong shout out as well, because like he really tied the visual side together in like in animation. So yeah, this is like another photo from my window, and here are my kids' toys making percussion sounds. Just like ideas and studies what I can do with like these things. So yeah, this was like the final stage of the cabin shot that started off as like a discarded idea. Like this is pretty much this thing, but then worked out in like, okay, this looks way better, and I put like a bicycle next to here, and that really tied it together, because this gives also like a bit of a depth to how deep it is, and so like it feels not too deep, so it makes it not as unrealistic, like, because if this would be like super deep, like it will make no sense for the trees to grow in there, which is already kind of strange. And having like this bicycle like stick in there gives like a bit of a sense of depth, but also like Santpoort used to be like a dune village, and it used to be built on the sandbank. So actually like it was a port of sand to go from one region to another. So people would wade and go through like a sort of a mud flat, or not a mud flat, but like a sandbank to go from point A to B. And I kind of want to like bring that back into this world as well, because in some way like I'm really interested where water and land kind of like meets, and how they all come together. It's just really interesting, and I kind of like want to craft this world around this idea. Yeah, so yeah, this is some of you guys might have seen this illustration of the piano before on my socials, and it's like I brought it back in there because like I wasn't actually gonna use it, but then just like I said just before, because of Mitch, he just like, oh, I really like this piano illustration you did, and this is like a snapshot of like the music video that we've been working on for I Forgot, and it's just like I just took out this illustration and brought it back into this sort of like the cabin. As you can see, this is the cabin that it's this cabin actually right here. As you can see like I drew like the inside of this door. Actually, I just realized like this background doesn't have like the window. Oh well. Continuity. So this is another like I took this same it just like this telescope is just at the back, so it's kind of like and then you get the background of like so it's just like trying to tie everything together, and you know it's the same sort of mountains and stuff like that. Let me see, I kind of lost my thread here for a sec. Oh yeah, so I just also like, okay, what else do we have? We have like a sailing boat. That would be pretty cool. It was just kind of like I was just trying to find like the color combination with like blue and the wood and the green of the trees and plants. I just really like that. So yeah, sailing across the ocean is kind of cool too. These are like a little bit less fantastic as like the flying manta rays. So I ended up not using the sailing boat because I felt like that just broke the illusion of being isolated. You can just like hop onto the boat and just travel anywhere. I kind of felt that was cheating. That makes sense. So yeah, this is the staircase for this cabin. Also, right here. Oops, I'm going way too far. Yeah, and as you can see, this is based on the photo of this right here. So I ended up using this sort of staircase for like the cabin in this shot. Then yeah, this is a more like normal looking jetty. Well, that's the back of the artwork. Yeah, this was actually kind of like the most worked out bottle I did. I kind of like bringing in the glass and the bottles because it gives like this sort of like contained idea and feel to it. Like you just bottle something, it becomes like really, this is a world on its own. And I tried to like kind of bring that back into this like illustration. It's like, you know, there's something contained. It's almost like a snow globe, or like, you know, there's like a whole world in there. There's a sea in this bottle. So that's why it's coming back. Also in this shot, you can see right here, there's like a little bottle one, and I kind of like this idea, just bringing all these things back. Yeah, cool. So like that's kind of like a grasp of like the illustrations I did for this album, and yeah, maybe like I can show you guys now a bit more of like an in-depth view of like some project files of things that I've been working on, and I haven't actually like shown anyone this yet, but this is kind of like how a project file looks like. Like I use a palette and then I end up not using it. It's kind of funny. But yeah, it's just like I started. Sometimes I use like photos to like, especially because I can't draw like people like really really well. So like I use photos as like a reference. So this is like me sitting by the ocean, and I know like the horizon changed a little bit, but because like I think the viewer now is higher up than where I'm sitting. But yeah, and then I ended up just, let me see what these things are. Okay, that's just I'm still working on this, kind of like having this. This used to be one illustration as well, but I ended up not using it, and I kind of like repurposed this, but I haven't done any of the shadow work, or the colors are still like kind of off as well. This is like still a work in progress. So yeah, I think originally the original drawing of this balcony thing, that's what I called right here, it ended up like somewhere around here, and so like it kind of got cut off, so like I'm still like working on making it a little bit wider. Yeah, and I'm still like figuring out. Then I made like this little village with the lighthouse. I'm probably gonna like remove this kind of horizon, but for now I kind of like this idea that we're now actually at the other side, so like where this mountain is sitting with the lighthouse in the back. That's kind of like where I want us to be. I don't know, because it gives a bit of like an idea. What's this? Oh yeah, so like I also like keeping my other illustrations around, so I can kind of grasp a bit of an atmosphere of like you know, what colors to use and how consistent are the colors with like the rest. So this is a bit dark, so I will probably end up just making it a bit lighter, but yeah. So yeah, what's this? So yeah, usually like the way I layer things is like I'll have like a line work. So we just it's this thing. So I just draw with like my Wacom, and I just like draw like little things here and there, usually based on a sketch, and then oh yeah, that's interesting. Oh yeah, this kind of like idea of a fog. I'll probably like take this off again, but yeah. So and then underneath the lines, I kind of like use my fills and colors. So it's like I usually start off with just a general fill. So if I take this all off, like this, I usually just start with like sort of a general vibe, sort of a fill, as like the base color of like the buildings, for example, here, and I'll start just adding like details, like the more like general details, like what's this doing here? Story of my life. And then yeah, I started adding like details, so I make sure like all the colors are there yet, but I can see I've made some mistakes here. Usually I clean up afterwards. It's better to like be a bit more organized, but kind of like a slight messy vibe to it. So I think this is already like adding kind of like shadows to like the trees and the roof. I need to redo the roofs of these houses. So yeah, this is another shadow work. It's a bit too harsh though. So if I'd select everything, yeah, probably make it a little bit lighter, and then just the windows. I'm not quite sure if I'm gonna make it dark outside or light. But yeah, so that's kind of like one of them. This is like one of the shots that I did, and I'm trying to like select. This was like interesting because like I had references for this piano and or like, well, okay, so like first of all, there is also the character that Mitch made. So I made the background of every of the music video that we're working on. I'm making most of the backgrounds, and Mitch is doing all the animation. So like all the movable parts, it's his responsibility, so to say. And I'm just like responsible for like the background. So in this case, we wanted to have like a shot where the telescope was sitting, which was sitting in the back. I don't think I have it here, but it's definitely here. Like as you can see, whoops, this shot is actually, I'm sitting here in front playing, and there's a telescope at the back. So let me see. That's the telescope to where it's sitting. It's not quite exactly where it's now because he's changed a few things, but it's kind of like I just had this. I had to use my own drawing as a reference, which is pretty interesting. I just had to draw it from a different angle because, so like I had to like kind of like look how this is all sitting and how close it is to the wall, and what's behind this wall, for example, which is cool because I haven't been able to use this lantern in one of my drawing, or actually it wasn't even in my discarded worked out ideas, but yeah, it was like I haven't used this illustration, so now I could finally use this illustration in a different background, and it fitted perfectly. So I was really stoked on that. And yeah, so the rest I kind of like drew. It's not like perfect, but it's just for like I don't know, 5-second shot or something in that vein. So yeah, that was a pretty interesting feel to it. So yeah, I think so. This was a sketch that I did. Just purely kind of, this is the background I'm after, and then end up doing that back on the horizon details that I've been taking everywhere. Yeah, wow. I'm not. I feel like I don't really know anymore what to talk about. There's been a lot of stuff being chatted about. Yeah. Boom, boom, boom. Cool. If you guys have any questions, please, because otherwise I'll just keep rambling on. How long have I been chatting anyway? It's been almost an hour. Hey. Cool. Well, maybe I can also. I want to like preview some new songs as well, in case you guys were interested in hearing some songs from the new album or not. It's really up to you. Thanks for tuning in and listening to me ramble, so to say. If there's any like particular illustrations that you guys want to have a look at, this is alright, sorry, let me go back. So this is a song of the new album. It's called Bean Surfing, and it's one of the songs that I made, and my friend Richard Henry Guy, he's done some backing vocals for, and this was like this song has been for in the making for a while. So it's kind of like, it's a pretty, I'm really happy with this song, but it's not gonna have like a major like spotlight on it, so I thought like maybe it's fun to like show it, and maybe you guys like it. This song's never been heard before anywhere, so you'll be the first one to hear it here.
Sometimes it's really hard to know when you walk through the same door, traveling all around the globe. Take me away in an envelope. I don't have a clue. The world is really funny. The world is something instead of. You've been something. The world's gone crazy. You've been something. Sometimes it's really hard to know when the winds will blow. Does it really matter where we go? Take me away in an envelope. You've been something. The world's gone crazy. You've been something. The world's gone crazy. You've been something. You've been something.
So yeah, that's Bean Surfing, and It's cool because like this album actually, it's the first time where I kind of wrote songs and I'm singing on most of the songs. So it's kind of a thing that I wanted to do for like a long time, and well, if COVID wasn't being a thing, like I would have been touring and playing these songs live on my bass and singing them with like a band. But it's been pretty dire for the last like year, and it still is the case in Australia, unfortunately. Hopefully, like once people are getting vaccinated here, I'll be able to do that. But I had a gig coming up next week, but yeah, we're in a 5-week lockdown now, so it's like there's not like much on the horizon. It's ironic with this album. There's nothing on the horizon. Yeah. Thanks so much for tuning in, and thanks friends of friends for having me. Feel free to like follow me on like social medias and stuff like that, and I'm really stoked to like show you more about the new album Ocean Tales that will come out next month, 27th of August, and I also got like a new single out, and that's why I'm doing this stream. It's actually a double single, like both songs are from the album, so you can have a listen to them on Spotify or whatever poison you're taking your music intake, so to say. And yeah, it's called Grass Amulet, and it's thanks so much for all the support and having me and all that. I really appreciate everything. Thank you so much. All right.